Are you able to still test on YouTube that YouTube's up? Ooh, let's go effects.
Are you putting full time?
I think I'm live on shit, YouTube already. There we go. All right. Yeah, it should be, we should be already live on YouTube. And then I gotta adjust that just a hair. Welcome in. We're just getting set up for the evening. Wow, that's a fast start for tonight. Looks like a lot of names just popped in all at one time, so that's good. And I got the YouTube stream going as well, so if you want to follow on with the documents that I'm going to be reading tonight, you might want to tune in to the YouTube channel up here, Devil's Advocates 2024 on YouTube, because I will thank you. I will be showing some documents tonight and going through some paragraphs that I will read. Of course, on TikTok, I'll be reading them for you, so you don't necessarily have to see the visuals. But if you would like to see the visuals, then check out the YouTube channel so you can get that. And also, as a reminder, in 3 days or 2 days, TikTok may be banned. Again, everybody's not really talking about this, but remember, when TikTok got banned, it was only extended until April 5th. April 5th is now approaching in a few days. If a deal hasn't made significant progress, then TikTok will go dark in a few days. And so if you want to keep in touch with the Devil's Advocates, you may need to make sure you're subscribed over at YouTube for now. So we'll see. But let's hope that TikTok stays around as well for another platform. That's where most of you are at right now. And probably most of you aren't going to go to TikTok. People who are one are usually not the other, and vice versa. So anyways, but if you're one of those crossovers, check out YouTube now. Get in there and give us a subscribe if you will. And thank you for giving us some loves and some likes. That could be my wife in the background. I don't know. But anyways.
It's not yet.
Okay, so thank you for getting us off to a great start. I really appreciate that. Anybody that can tap the screen, give us some loves. That's always helpful. Honestly, it gets us a good start. I get a little bit more fiery and full of piss and vinegar the more people that are in here listening and caring. So it behooves all of us to get a little bit of a audience going, so I don't feel like I'm just talking to 3 people. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? So that all helps, and thank you so much for the continual likes on that. Again, about 6 minutes we'll get started. I believe we're streaming on YouTube as well. By the way, on YouTube, if you care, I haven't updated what's happened today. So I've got a what's new section that I try to update. I'm going to try to keep that updated every day on what's new in the Devil's Advocates, because I'm doing multiple things, including even some Twitch stuff, streaming, playing video games, and talking about true crime while I do that, and watch some of my favorite podcasts. So if that sounds weird to you, you might want to check it out anyways. Check out my YouTube. You'll see a list of what's new on the screen right now. And then as we get into the show tonight, I'll be covering some documents showing what's going on. Tonight, by the way, just to give you a heads up about what it is, it's all about Luigi Mangione tonight. So I cover 2 true crime cases. Again, this is just warm-up. This is not the official start, but I cover 2 true crime cases currently, which is the Idaho 4 Brian Koberger situation and Luigi Mangione in the United Healthcare situation trial. So I am covering tonight 100% Luigi Mangione. We did a huge 2-hour show on Brian Koberger just recently. I said I was going to try to get Luigi taken care of today. So thank you for the shirt comment. I appreciate that. I thought it was kind of a little flashy, especially with this lighting on here, but hopefully it's not too horribly distracting and blow. I know it is. It's freaking bright, isn't it? It's got a very shiny surface, so it's just like, whoo! Oh, you were sick yesterday. That sucks. So anyways, yeah, just giving it a few more minutes, 5 more minutes, we'll get started officially. It's going to be all about Luigi Mangione tonight. It's going to be about Pam Bondi's direction to the federal government to seek the death penalty against Luigi Mangione. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Karen Ignifo. I mean, all these things I'm going to say again at the top of the hour, because at the top of the hour I'm going to do an official monologue and whatever of what's coming up, so that everyone knows what the agenda is, and then we'll get right into the agenda. But as we're doing pre-talk, You can ask questions if you want, as long as it's not going to step over too much what I'm going to tell you 2 minutes from now anyways. So thanks for the gifts and all those things that are coming in. I really appreciate that. It helps a lot. This channel is building a lot of momentum. If you are looking at my YouTube channel, by the way, and you see my what's new notes, you'll find that TikTok just recently flagged my account as a up and coming host, or a rising host is what they called it. So now all of a sudden I'm getting recruiting type agencies that are like, hey, you should work with us and we'll help promote you because you're an up and coming TikToker, which is ironic because TikTok's about to go away, right? Well, it could go away in a couple days. So we'll see. Let's hope to get, I would hate to start finally making some momentum and some inroads in the TikTok sphere, and then TikTok gets shut down. But there are lots of buyers, and so we'll see how that goes. I watched it. It was completely one-sided. I'm not sure what you watched. So, you're talking to somebody else. So I missed the previous comment on that. So, okay. Well, like I said, 3 more minutes. We'll get started at the top of the hour. I'll give my official monologue and what's going on, what the plan is. Again, if you want to follow along with what's new and everything, Devil's Advocates 2024 on YouTube is my official channel. And you can sign in there to watch the documents that I'll be talking about and reading on screen as we go.
Sarah wants to know if you ever got around to watching the Who is Luigi Mangione documentary.
Well, who is Luigi Mangione? So there is 4 documentaries I've seen on him. I saw the one that was like the one that was called Luigi Mangione, The Mind of a Killer. Yes, Who is Luigi Mangione is the latest one that came out. Yes, absolutely. I have watched, as far as I know, I've watched every single Luigi Mangione documentary that's come out, including I did like an hour and a half review of the Law and Order fictionalized depiction of Luigi Mangione that had Karen Agnifilo as an advisor to Law and Order, the television show, and we talked about my thoughts about that, and that's going to come up again tonight, and my thoughts and my feelings about what's going on with the latest back and forth with Pam Bondi and Karen Agnifilo in the press. And so we will cover that, and it'll bring us back to the Law and Order special as well. So yeah, we're 2 minutes away from the start. Got a good start with a good start of people in the room. Got a good number of likes. Thank you so much for giving us a good 3.8 or 4,000 likes coming up before we even get started. So I super appreciate that. I see so many names that I see all the time on a regular basis. So thank you so much for staying with me and being here. And we will get started very, very shortly, about 1 minute now, 1 minute before we get started, and I will do my official start. I feel like I'm like in hockey, 2 minutes. There's 2 minutes left in the. Hey,
hi, Natasha.
Thank you for saying hi to us on a personal name basis. Thank you so much. So yeah, 1 minute, or actually it's going to be less than 1 minute. It's going to be 30 seconds or so before I get going. So I don't know that my YouTube stream is going. I'm assuming it is. All indications.
It looks like it.
Okay, yeah. It does look like it. Okay, good. Then I'm going to stop worrying about. Oh, in fact, I see Kimberly on YouTube. Hello. Thank you so much for saying hi over there. So yeah, that documentary on TMZ was the worst of the 4 documentaries. I have to agree with that. So I got 2 places I can look for chats, TikTok, and now YouTube. And I'm trying to move stuff around. Did we get a goat gift? Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
And you got glasses coming.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious! I have never seen that. That's amazeballs. Thank you.
I love it.
That's crazy. Oh, and then you made me laugh so much I knocked my microphone over. Okay, that's going to be an occupational hazard right there. All right, top of the hour. So let's get started at the top of the hour. First of all, thank you all for coming. Thank you for signing in again to watch The Devil's Advocates. We are simultaneously broadcasting right now on YouTube and on TikTok. TikTok is our primary platform, but I do a lot of long form content because I am very, very wordy. I've said that a million times and you've probably figured that out by now. I almost never take a breath. My wife, the she-devil, is in the room. She's going to try to help when she can ever find a moment in the pause of my breathing to tell me that somebody might have a comment that we want to address. In addition, I want to give you a little bit of a highlight about what's going on. But first of all, like I said, make sure that you're watching YouTube if you want to follow along with the actual words on the screen and see ahead of time before the show starts what I've been working on behind the scenes. A reminder that TikTok may be banned in about on the 5th of April. There was an extension in place that allowed TikTok to continue, but remember the U.S. government is putting pressure on ByteDance to sell TikTok, at least a portion of it, to a U.S. company, which ByteDance has said they have no intention of doing. If they cannot reach or broker a deal or make significant progress, they're going to shut the servers off in the U.S. again on April 5th. It's weird that people aren't talking about this. So this is a possibility of one of your last chances to see this. Looks like we'll have maybe one more live on Friday if it hasn't been shut down by then, and then it could go dark. So make sure you find other ways to follow us if you are interested in this content and want to know. The website, by the way, that I'm posting on YouTube, which is devilsadvocates.info, is the best place to know if for some reason this gets shut down and you're still interested in my content. Yes, I heard Amazon wants to buy Devil's Advocate. Everybody, I mean, not Devil's Advocate. That'd be great if Amazon wanted to buy Devil's Advocates. No, they want to buy TikTok. Everybody and their dog wants to buy it in the U.S. because it's a cash cow. It's $1 trillion business in the United States. So of course everybody wants to have a piece of it. And I feel like I got feelings about that. But let's just move on with that. So. Let's see. Do I have anything else? I have a surprise guest, by the way, tonight. I'm going to bring on. So I got one person who may join us later tonight. She is an uncertain. I got one person that's kind of an uncertain guest, but I do have a special guest coming on, a surprise guest that you may have no idea is coming. So stay around to the end if you want to meet my surprise guest. And so I will probably tease that once or twice more. But I know that there's one guest who may join us, and I know for sure there's a surprise guest coming on towards the end of the show. So we're going to talk right now about Pam Bondi. Now, if you look at the YouTube channel, I'm just going to throw Pam Bondi's pictures up so you know what she looks like. This is the United States Attorney General. She's made the huge splash in the news because she has released an official notification on Luigi Mangione directing the federal government to seek the death penalty. Now, I want to say off the bat that this is kind of no news and kind of huge news.
The guest is not Karen Amazing.
Okay. So yeah, if I get to the point where I have Karen on, you will know ahead of time, and it won't be just one of those. Hey, somebody might surprise you at the end. So yeah, no, that would be amazeballs. But no, we're not there. So anyways, we got Pam Bondi on screen, U.S. Attorney General. I'm going to read for you word for word. And again, if you're on the YouTube channel, you can follow along word for word. This is the Department of Justice official website with a press release from Pam Bondi. We're going to read it in verbatim at some point here. And in the press release, Attorney General Pamela Bondi directs prosecution to seek the death penalty for Luigi Mangione for immediate release, April 1st, 2025. So that was yesterday. Today, the Attorney General Pamela Bondi released the following statement. Now, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of the wording, not only what Pamela Bondi said, what Karen Agnifilo said in response, which is relatively short. It's going to feel long, but they're relatively short comments back and forth. And then we're going to break down what does this really mean? At the end of the day, what does it really mean? What's changed, if anything, for Luigi Mangione? And I'm going to read between the lines. I would call it like running things through the universal translator for you to tell you what's really happening, in my opinion. The subtle nuances that are being said and the posturing that's happening behind the scenes. So that's one of the things that I do at the Devil's Advocates as well, is try to help you understand not just what's being said, but the nuances behind what they're trying to say. So this is the announcement from Pamela Bondi, official press release. Luigi Mangione's murder of Brian Thompson, an innocent man and father of 2 young children, was a premeditated, cold-blooded assassination that shocked America. So let me start right there. I don't need to read the whole thing. Right there. This is what they would call in legal terms no probative value. Telling us that he's the father of 2 young children is no probative value. It's designed entirely to evoke sympathy for an innocent man and a father. Now, I want to point out, I want to keep an open mind on both sides of the equation, but Devil's Advocates, I've said it a million times, we do presume that a person's innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. That's what we designed the United States legal system about, is the defense has the prosecution has the burden of proof, and the defense is considered to be innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And so we believe in that principle, and we want to say that prove it to us beyond a reasonable doubt. And I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to play devil's advocates with the prosecution stance. So right off the bat, I'm just telling you, this is pure posturing to continue to refer to Brian Thompson as an innocent man and father of 2 children. That whole point of father of 2 children is to evoke sympathy on your part and make you feel that this is a horrendous thing. Now, so I want to point something out. In any military situation, the general oftentimes won't be on the front lines of the battle. He's just giving orders to soldiers. And that man who is the general is probably a grandfather who could have played with his grandchildren that day. So if you were to say, for example, that, well, the general didn't kill anybody, the soldier killed somebody. So therefore, whoever took out that general is just killing an old man, an innocent man, and a grandfather who was just playing with his children today. See, so it has no value. It's like it's trying to deflect the blame away from what the person's role was in the matter. Oh, well, he was innocent. He was at home playing with his grandkids when somebody took him out. But if he's giving orders for other people to carry out war, for example, then is it an innocent person? So I just want to point out that when we're playing word games, this continually gets pushed by the media, that Brian Thompson was an innocent man. Now, I told you before that we were going to reflect a little bit back to the Law and Order special, and I guess I'm going to do that right now. In the Law and Order special, if you recall, there was a moment in which the police came to a barista on the street. It was very much similar to what we believe happened in the real situation with Luigi Mangione and supposedly flirting with a barista. And they asked the barista basically to help them make a composite sketch of the shooter. And she's like, no, that's a hard pass. I'm not going to do that. And they say, you realize that this man killed an innocent man. And her response was, innocent, not even close. That person is responsible for all kinds of deaths, all kinds of murders. So you have to understand that what we have in this particular case, and I believe that Law and Order gave a preview of what's going to happen. So I don't even know where to get to all this to explain to you, right? So in the Law and Order special, the defense was basically a surprise defense, what I call a landmark defense in the United States. And I realize it's fictional, but again, keep in mind that Luigi's lawyer, Karen Ignifilo, is an advisor to Law and Order. So was there some subtle nuances and messaging going on in the Law and Order special? What was the defense position in the Law and Order thing? Was it that the shooter, and I think his name was Ethan Weller in the fictional episode, was it that he didn't do it? No, they acknowledged that he did do it. Their defense is that it was self-defense. That because the healthcare system and the CEO was responsible for thousands and thousands of deaths due to denials of claims, that the act of the shooter was an act of self-defense. He was trying to save lives by changing the narrative, by changing the leadership of the health insurance company, right? And so that was their defense in the show. And I understand it's fictional, right? But you have to understand that the posturing that's happening between Pamela Bondi and Karen Ignifilo almost makes it look like Karen Ignifilo is indeed following that path. Why? Because Karen Ignifilo, as we will see very shortly, is going to call out the healthcare system as a murderous healthcare system. So referring to, as Pam Bondi is doing here, Brian Thompson as an innocent man and father of 2, is trying to paint him as he has no blood on his hand. He's just an innocent guy who was just going about his business and has a duty to make money for their shareholders. And so therefore, anyone is horrendous for doing what they did. Now again, I'm not advocating violence, and this show does not advocate violence. In fact, I should have given you my disclaimer right off the bat that this is for educational purposes only, and this is not a call to action, and this is not advocating for violence, and nor do we glorify any kind of thing like that. But having said that, let's at least have an open dialogue of what's happening. So constantly trying to shift the blame away from the idea that Brian Thompson was just a father of children and an innocent man, when the defense may be setting up a scenario in which the healthcare system is a murderous healthcare system, and therefore what happened was considered. And I'm not positive this is happening, but what the argument is that what Luigi Mangione did, if he's indeed the one who did it, is considered an act of self-defense to save others' lives. That's what the show was about in Law and Order, is the argument that this was an act to save the lives of other people. By doing something drastic, it would save the lives of others. So let's continue on with the official press release. Boy, did I go on a side tangent on that. Sorry about that. After careful consideration, I have directed the federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty in the case as we carry out President Trump's agenda to stop violent crime and make America safe again. This is hugely political. You have to understand, hugely political. It is my belief that Trump wants to be considered tough on crime. There's a big document, which I won't spend a lot of time on at all, in which the Pam Bondi had a letter, a directive, basically stating over and over again that Biden was soft on crime and that Trump is going to go back to being hard on crime, and that we're going to go after and we're going to kill and execute people who commit murders or who commit crimes. Now, in particular, in this long letter, which I might show you, but I don't want to read you in detail because it's like 4 pages, she references it in a news article that we are going to talk about. So that's why I keep bringing it up. She references it in a news article. And it's designed to go after cartels and illegal aliens that commit murders within the borders. It's designed very specifically to go hard on drug cartels and illegal aliens that commit murders within our borders. But she's applying this more generally to any situation in which we want to go after somebody for murder, and lumps it all together with child molesters and anything else. But anyways, boy, it's really hard for you to follow the official press release because I keep freaking tangenting all over the place. As alleged, Luigi Mangione stalked and murdered. This is the official press release from Pam Bondi. As alleged, Luigi Mangione stalked and murdered United Healthcare executive Brian Thompson on December 4th, 2024. The murder was an act of political violence. This is important. This is very important. This is what the government is going to use to justify executing Luigi Mangione, is that he was making a political statement and it was basically against the United States government. This is what they're trying to set up, that this was not just an attack on one person, which would be hard to get the death penalty for or execute somebody for, but it was an attack against the government itself, against our foundational principles. Mangione's actions involved substantial planning and premeditation, and because the murder took place in public with bystanders, may have posed great risk and death to additional persons. This also I really want to address, and I'm sorry I can't read her. I can't even get through it. I can't read Pam Bondi's official press release verbatim all the way through without having all these thoughts that I have to share with you. But that's what you come here for, is what's your take on what Pam Bondi said. Her statement that he did this on a public street and therefore injured or risked innocent lives, essentially is what she's saying, flies in the face of what supposedly the last documentary on Luigi Mangione told us, which was supposedly Luigi Mangione wrote online that he had considered using a bomb to make a statement, but he didn't want to hurt innocent people. And in fact, one of the things that supposedly Luigi Mangione reviewed Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber's book, his manifesto, that was Ted Kaczynski's manifesto. Luigi Mangione did not have a manifesto. We can get into that if you want to a little bit later. But the point being is that one of the things that Luigi supposedly said in public writings was that he disrespected Ted Kaczynski because he did hurt innocent people. Yeah.
Somebody's told, Natasha mentioned that you're lagging and you might want to use the initials PB instead of saying her name.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate that. I do appreciate those who suggest that I might want to, for example, not say Luigi Mangione or Pamela Bondi and all these things. And I understand that. I'm taking a risk on purpose. I have maintained that I want to believe that TikTok is going to allow us to talk about these things. And I have people tell me all the time, I don't understand how you keep getting away with it. I think I know how I'm getting away with it, so I'm going to keep talking until they prove to me that I've done something wrong.
You
so
said you were lagging, so could they be
suppressing it? I don't know. Are they, and I guess other people, let my wife watch the comments. Are other people getting lag? By the way, for lag, and I know we're digressing quite a bit here. There is going to be a lag between YouTube and TikTok. So if you've got both streams going, you really should mute the TikTok and watch just the YouTube. There will be a big lag as a delay.
One person said you're lagging.
And somebody else said no lagging. So.
Yeah.
No lagging for me. So again, the lag is going to be a case when you're looking at two different streams. So make sure that you mute one stream and only listen to one. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, you do want to mute TikTok because it'll be ahead on TikTok, I assure you. So, all right, sorry about the that disjointedness. What the point being is that there was a moment which Luigi himself was supposedly writing in his own writings that he didn't like that Ted Kaczynski used bombs because it hurt innocent people, and that Luigi wanted to make sure that he didn't hurt innocent people. So Pam Bondi saying, hey, this guy did this on a public street and could have hurt innocent people, is ignoring the supposed words of Luigi himself that said that he wanted to make sure that he didn't hurt innocent people. So just keep that in mind. And again, this is very difficult in a show that wants to presume innocence until proven guilty, because we don't know that Luigi Mangione wrote those words. But if he did write those words, like they say he wrote those words, then he specifically said that he had no intention of hurting innocent people. In fact, that's what the Law and Order special was trying to say, was that he did not hurt an innocent person. The CEO of the healthcare company was not innocent.
There are several people saying you're lagging and pausing.
That sucks. That may, I really am still inclined to believe it's not because of what I'm saying, although it could be. It could be. So let's continue on, and we'll just, I will address this later after I have a moment to reflect when the show is done. For now, I'm going to proceed like I always do. I'm going to proceed like I always do. All right. And then I will adjust if I need to. Following federal murder charges handed down on December 19th, 2024, Attorney General Bondi has now directed the acting U.S. Attorney Matthew Podolsky to seek the death penalty in this case. This is in line with the Attorney General Bondi's Day 1 memo as Attorney General. So she wrote a document Day 1 in office. I'm going to pop it up on screen on YouTube so you can see if you want to. This is the letter they're talking about. The Office of Attorney General, Washington, D.C., February 5th, 2025. This is after she was taken office. And it basically lays out for pages and pages how Biden was soft on crime. Trump wants to be tough on crime. They're going to start reinstituting the death penalty because the death penalty has been largely going in the wrong direction for the past 25 years, and they want to start doing more federal executions because they believe that the death penalty is a deterrent to crime. Now, I don't want to get into on this show the issue about whether or not the death penalty is a deterrent to crime and whether it's effective or not. It's a little outside the purview, but I just wanted you to understand that that's what these highlighted sections on YouTube are, is that her laying out that Trump has given her a mandate, and now she's giving all federal agencies the mandate to be harder on crime and to execute people in this country, despite the fact that we've been going the opposite direction for the last 25 years and having less and less executions. They want to reinstitute capital punishment as a crime and a deterrent. So that was Pam Bondi's official statement. Now let me ask you here, what does it really mean? It doesn't mean a whole lot. Most of you who are in support of Luigi Mangione in one way or another, be that you believe he's innocent or you whatever, most of you were freaking out when he was what we call overcharged. He was charged in the state by a bunch of different counts in a whole bunch of different ways. He was charged at the federal level in the state of New York, a whole bunch of different charges in a whole bunch of different ways. And he was charged in Pennsylvania for a whole bunch of charges in a whole bunch of ways. And many have stated, even in the legal community, that they are overcharging Luigi Mangione. They're doing it because they want to make sure that something sticks and he goes down for life at a minimum, and probably the death penalty if they can get it. Now, in that regards, nothing has changed. We have all believed, those who have been following the Luigi Mangione case have all believed that the federal government intended to execute Luigi Mangione from day one. That's why they brought the charges that they did against him. Otherwise, they would have just let the state do their thing and let the cards go where they may. The whole reason why we got into the federal government prosecuting him, by many people's standard, was because they wanted the death penalty for Luigi Mangione. Let me clarify what that means. The state of New York has stopped executing people. I think it was 2004, when they stopped executing people, or at least passed a law that said that they considered the death penalty to be cruel and unusual punishment. And so therefore, they stopped in the state of New York. The state of New York as a whole does not believe in the death penalty. However, the state of New York is just one of the entities trying Luigi Mangione. The federal government in the state of New York, but acting as the federal court, is also prosecuting Luigi Mangione. And the federal court is able to exact the death sentence on someone. And so, I want to clarify, in some regards, what Pam Bondi has announced with directing the federal government to execute or to seek the execution of Luigi Mangione is not new. We already knew that the federal government was intending to try to go for the death penalty and get that. What's changed, however, is a nuance in the way that Karen Agnifilo responds to this. So I want you to listen to what Karen Agnifilo says, and I'm going to try to read Karen's thing verbatim before side tangenting, but there's like 7 points in her thing that I can side tangent on. So maybe reach out and slap me in the face if I side tangent on this too much. So this is from Luigi. Focus. This is on LuigiMangioniInfo.com. Again, LuigiMangioniInfo.com is the official website of Luigi Mangione's attorneys. They keep people up to date on the latest court dates, the changes in court dates, and official press releases. So this is April 1st. Very, very same day Pam Bondi came out and said, I am directing the federal government in New York to seek the death penalty. They already kind of were. But you're going to see some nuances in the way that Karen addresses this that I think is telling in my opinion. So Karen's response, April 1st, 2025. I'm going to read it verbatim and then I'm going to break it down for you. By seeking to murder Luigi Mangione, the Justice Department has moved from dysfunctional to barbaric. Their decision to execute Luigi is political and goes against the recommendation of the local federal prosecutors, the law, and historic precedent. While claiming to protect against murder, the federal government moves to commit the premeditated state-sponsored murder of Luigi. By doing this, they are defending the broken, immoral, and murderous healthcare industry that continues to terrorize the American people. We are prepared to fight those federal charges brought by a lawless Justice Department, as well as the New York State charges and the Pennsylvania charges, and anything else they want to pile on Luigi. This is a corrupt web of government dysfunction and one-upsmanship. Luigi is caught in a high-stakes game of tug-of-war between state and federal prosecutors, except the trophy is a young man's life. All right, there is a lot of meat on what just got said by Karen Agnifilo. One, I believe in the nuances of what Karen Agnifilo is saying is that I believe, can't prove this, I want to stress this a million times. I believe Karen Agnifilo was given a word behind the scenes that the federal government in the state of New York was not going to seek the death penalty against Luigi. This could explain several things. It could explain why she's been playing nice with them for so long, why she's been allowing them every single time they ask for more time to indict Luigi Mangione, because the federal government still has not gotten an indictment against Luigi Mangione. They keep extending the time that they want to be able to make the indictment. And I have commented many, many times that the one thing I've questioned Karen Agnifilo on is why she's not forcing the government to make their case, because it's the benefit of her client for them to put up or shut up. And if they can't make their case, too bad. We have a right in the United States of America to a speedy trial. So in my opinion, Karen, and I don't want to besmirch Karen Agnifilo. I'm not saying she's not doing a good job. What I said is I have questions on why she's not insisting that the government give her client the right to a speedy trial and either indict him or let it go. Now, wow. So much. If you haven't watched my shows, there's so much here. Okay. One of the reasons why, and it was brought up by an attorney on my show, I had Cynthia Thornton on my show, an attorney in New York and Texas, and she gave a good explanation why it is potentially that Karen Agnifilo keeps allowing the federal government to have more time to indict. Because if, and this is how she explained it, the federal government can have as long as they want to indict Luigi Mangione, but they can't hold him without an indictment, and they would have to let him go. If the federal government lets him go, he's going to be remanded into state custody. If he gets remanded into state custody, he may be going to Rikers Island, a notoriously bad prison with dangerous conditions and all kinds of negativity associated with it. So, by allowing the federal government to continue to hold on to Luigi Mangione, it basically makes it so that he isn't remanded into the custody of the state of New York and sent to Rikers. I don't know if you follow all that logic, and if you have questions about that, please let my wife know in the comments, and she will tell me that I need to do a little bit more explanation. So that is one explanation for why Karen Agnifilo may have been giving the federal government more time, because she didn't want Luigi Mangione to be remanded into the custody of the state of New York, which, by the way, the state of New York has the right to go first in all the trials. So Luigi Mangione is facing charges in the state of New York, the federal government in New York, and Pennsylvania, and New York gets to go first before the federal government in New York. So again, that's one possible logic. The other possible logic I see in the nuances of what I believe is that when Karen Agnifilo says that this new statement by Pam Bondi asking for them to seek the death penalty against Luigi Mangione goes against the federal prosecutors in the state of New York, what does that tell you? What it tells me is, first of all, the federal government in the state of New York has not officially commented one way or another on whether or not they intend to seek the death penalty. But Karen says, Pam Bondi saying you must execute Luigi Mangione if you can, goes against the recommendations of the federal government in New York. What that tells me is Karen Agnifilo has been given a word on the backside, behind the scenes, by somebody in the federal government office in New York that we are not going to try to kill Luigi Mangione. We're not going for the death penalty. You have our word. We're not going to do that. And then Pam Bondi just undid all of that by saying, Trump has ordered me to be hard on crime. You who work for the U.S. Attorney General's office will seek the death penalty in this case. And so Karen's a little upset and a little hot. This is the way I interpret it. I could be completely wrong, but this is the way I interpret it. Karen's a little hot. She had been given the word that the federal government was not going to try to seek the death penalty, and perhaps has been playing a little nice with them because they're not going for the death penalty. And then along comes Pam Bondi from the U.S. Attorney General's office directing the state of New York to go for an execution on Luigi Mangione. So I could understand why she would be a little hot and want to fire back on that. And again, if you don't follow and I need to slow down and explain it a little better, let me know in the comments, and my wife can hopefully catch me in a breath. I'll take a breath now. All right. Then let's continue on this. This is one of the big things that she says. While claiming to protect against murder, the federal government moves to commit the premeditated state-sponsored murder of Luigi. So that's a nuanced thing. That's not what I'm really keying in on. What I'm keying on is this sentence. By doing this, they are defending the broken, immoral, and murderous healthcare industry that continues to terrorize the American people. I cannot tell you, people, how key those wordings are and what tips me off to the defense of Luigi Mangione. She is setting up, Karen Agnifilo is setting up to put the United States healthcare system on trial. Now, I have said before, no court system is going to allow this to be a trial of the United Healthcare System. They're going to try to paint this as it's this guy killed this guy and he was an innocent guy and a father, and that's all that really matters. Did the guy pull the trigger or not? That's it. That's all they want you to focus on. And the court is not going to want you to focus on the United Healthcare System being on trial. In fact, I won't be surprised if the prosecution says in this trial, as soon as anything happens that Karen tries to bring in some kind of allegation about the healthcare system, objection. The United Healthcare System's not on trial here. Luigi Mangione is. This is what I expect to have happen. Yet, if Karen Agnifilo is not going to say that her man is innocent, we don't know yet, that meaning he wasn't there and he didn't do it. And if she's not going to say that he's mentally insane, which, by the way, she should have already done by now. If her client had a mental impairment and she believed that her client had a mental impairment and was incapable of helping in his own defense, that has to be disclosed to the court already. We would have heard that long ago, in my opinion. I'm not a lawyer, but I understand law quite a bit. So in my opinion, if they were going for the insanity defense, some kind of mental illness offense, that had to have already been brought up. She would have already had to say, hey, look, my client's got some mental issues. We need some psychiatric help and evaluation, and we will continue to monitor the situation. But he's not capable of helping us in the defense. That is not only what they're not doing, but she's obviously, Karen Agnifilo, saying that her client does have the capability of helping with his own defense, because Karen Agnifilo has requested a laptop, a specially configured laptop for Luigi Mangione to help them sift through all the mountains of evidence against him. So again, what am I telling you? Listen to the nuances. This is important. Karen Agnifilo, in my opinion, absolutely is not going for an insanity defense. She can't say her client is mentally impaired in any way, shape, or form, and also say that he is able to help them go through all the evidence to defend himself. Those two things do not coincide. So the fact that Karen has not asked for any kind of, hey, my client's got some mental issues and we need to get some psych evaluations going, that would have been required already. But she's also saying he needs a laptop to help us defend. So you can, in my mind, you can take off the table that Karen Agnifilo is going to try any kind of insanity to plea or any kind of mental disability plea. That's not going to happen in this case, in my opinion. But you watch. I could be wrong. Who knows? But what is more interesting, like I said, is this paragraph that Karen Agnifilo says that they are defending they are defending a broken, immoral, and murderous healthcare industry that terrorizes the American people. That is huge. That indicates that the fictional story defense that they had for Ethan Weller in the Law and Order episode could be exactly what they're going for. Was that Luigi Mangione did what he's accused of doing, potentially. We haven't heard her say that. But he did it as an act of self-defense because the healthcare system is a murderous system that continues to murder people every single day in their denials of claims. And so her argument may be, I just got booted by TikTok.
Oh no.
And I'm going to appeal.
So why do you suppose that was? What were you saying?
Because they think I'm condoning murder. And it will take 24 hours. So I'm live on YouTube. We will continue on YouTube because I just got booted off of TikTok. So are you with me, Rhonda? You can pull your lapel mic because it's not going to matter anymore on TikTok.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to pull that as well. So I just got kicked off of TikTok because...
You want to go on my TikTok?
No, I'm not going to get kicked off twice in one night. So we're going to continue on YouTube, and let's just hope that they don't kick me off here. And it's funny because I just said at the beginning, someone's like, "You need to be careful. You're talking about Pam Bondi. They're going to kick you off." I'm like, "They're not going to kick me off. They kicked me off." All right, let's continue on YouTube with a fraction of the audience, and hope that the people that were on TikTok will come say hello. Welcome to those who are maybe joining us now on the YouTube channel. So continuing on, this is continuing the statement from Karen Agnifilo. This is a corrupt web of government dysfunction and one-upmanship. Luigi is caught in a high-stakes game of tug-of-war between the state and federal prosecutors, except the trophy is a young man's life. Now, this is one thing that happened early on when we saw that there was a big article in the Washington Post about Jessica Tisch and how she wanted to beat the federal government to arresting Luigi Mangione. It was a big, huge rush, and just like Karen is saying, a game of one-upmanship. Can we get Luigi before the federal government gets Luigi Mangione? Cloud, you tell me why I can't talk about Bondi. They will say I was promoting hate speech and promoting violence. I will almost guarantee you that I got pulled, and it's funny because I just got recognized as an up-and-coming host on YouTube, but they're going to say that I was promoting violence and advocating violence. So, anyways, so there you go. And it's totally derailed me because I'm trying to get back into the swing of things, and I got no audience now on YouTube, and I got kicked off of TikTok. Okay, well, I got 21 people. Okay.
Go.
All right.
Good.
So let's continue on with the media coverage. I want to show you the media coverage of the little war because there were some telling things in the media coverage that also came out. So we're going 100% now, I guess, on YouTube. Well, I don't guess. I know we're going 100% on YouTube. This is from the NBC News, as you can see on my screen if you're watching on right now. It says, Attorney General Pam Bondi directs federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty for Luigi Mangione. Attorney General Pam Bondi on Tuesday directed the federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty against Luigi Mangione. Bondi said that she was directing prosecutors to seek the death penalty as part of President Trump's agenda to stop violent crime and make America safe again. Luigi Mangione's murder of Brian Thompson, an innocent man and father of two, was a premeditated, cold-blooded assassination that shocked America. That was part of the statement we already read. Mangione's attorney, that's Karen Agnifilo, called Bondi's directive barbaric and political. We read that in verbatim before I got kicked off the live. All right. This is a corrupt web of government dysfunction and one-upmanship, Karen Agnifilo said in a statement Tuesday. Luigi is caught in a high-stakes game of tug-of-war, except for what's at stake is a young man's life. And this is what's important. Mangione has yet to be indicted federally, and prosecutors have indicated that both sides are okay with delaying the process while the state prosecutors bring their case first. I don't know that both sides are okay with delaying the federal indictment. I think that's a stretch, other than to say that it is required that a defense agree to a postponement. So if they ask for a postponement, the defense has to agree to it. So that's why they're saying both sides are okay, because Karen Ignifilo did have to agree to allow them to have more time if they and she has so far. But it's not necessarily that she's just okay with it. There may be other reasons, like keeping her client out of Rikers Island. James S. Lieberman, a professor at Columbia Law School who researches the death penalty cases, said it was unusual for federal prosecutors to pursue the death penalty in states that do not issue capital punishment for state crimes. What is that saying? New York State, the state, stopped executing people quite some time ago. The state of New York, the people and citizens of New York, decided that they felt that the death penalty was cruel and unusual punishment and stopped executing people in the state of New York. The federal government, however, in New York wants to execute Luigi Mangione. And according to James Lieberman, quoted in this news article from ABC News, professor at Columbia School of Law, basically said that it's unusual for the federal prosecutors to pursue the death penalty in a state where the state doesn't issue the death penalty. And yet, that's exactly what Pam Bondi is wanting to do. So this is an unusual situation. Pam Bondi directing the federal government to seek an execution in a state where the state has already decided they don't want to execute people. Yeah, they pulled my live on TikTok. I don't know how that's going to play out long term for me. All right, continuing on. Jurors in those states can be less sympathetic to the death penalty. So this is important. This article is pointing out juries or jurors are less sympathetic to implementing the death penalty in the federal charges in a state that's already said they don't believe in the death penalty. This is important because people are asking, oh my gosh, the federal government has been directed to execute Luigi Mangione. Is it going to happen? Not likely. Because I'm going to show to you the last time that somebody was asked by the federal government in New York to execute someone for a crime. And the jury in the state of New York said, no, we will not execute them. And they did something, I would argue, to be worse, perhaps. I don't know if putting a label on what is worse is, but I want to tell you what that individual did. That individual ran their truck into a crowded group of people and killed, I think, 8 people, running them over. And that person, the jury did not give the death penalty to, even though they were random people that were targeted in just a senseless, I'm going to drive my truck through a crowd of people and kill people. And they couldn't get the death penalty, even though the federal government went for the death penalty on it. The state of New York said, no, you can give them life in prison, but not the death penalty. So if they can't get it for that, I don't know how they get it for Luigi Mangione, especially if the defense uses the argument that it was a self-defense. Yeah, I got kicked out before my special guest. Oh my gosh. No, I did not get kicked out because of my special guest. Unfortunately, I'm going to tell you who my special guest was because it's ruined now. My wife was the special guest. Her account was just approved to go live with me. So I was going to have my wife come on and say hi to everybody. And that was my special guest.
You can see the face behind the voice.
Yeah, so you can see the face behind the voice. And all I wanted to do was like, hey, everybody.
I guess I could cuddle up over there with you and show my face.
You might have to for the YouTube audience and for those in the TikTok, because now they don't get to see the she-devil I was. And that was my special guest. I was going to bring my wife on with me and show you my she-devil companion. But that didn't happen. So she got, and again,
Tasha.
the ban that I got was the most. I've never gotten that bad of a ban, by the way.
That was like bam.
Normally I get a warning that I'm being restricted, and I get to be allowed to continue. They shut my live off, just done. So we'll see. I may not be able to continue at TikTok.
Yeah, we're in the same room. He's behind a curtain, so he's got his little backdrop, but we're in the same room.
Yeah, and so she's being picked up on my microphone. That's how close she is. So the last time, we talked about this a little bit. The last time the federal prosecution recommended the death penalty in New York was for Sayfullo Saipov, who drove a pickup truck in Manhattan's Hudson River Park in 2017, killing 8 people. In 2023, a jury was unable to reach a unanimous decision to authorize the death penalty in that case. He was instead sentenced to life in prison without parole. So again, New York State. New York State does not favor the death penalty. And so even when the federal government wants to execute someone in the federal court system in New York State, they are still using a New York jury. And the New York citizens, per se, are generally against the death penalty. So it's hard to get. And I think for those who are interested or curious about whether or not they're going to execute Luigi Mangione, I don't see them doing that because it's 2 separate votes. And we're going to cover that a little bit more right now. So first of all, the trial of Luigi Mangione is a two-part thing in the federal system. There's the guilt phase and the penalty phase. In the guilt phase, the jury gets together and they hear all the evidence and they get told what he's accused of doing and then are asked at the end, is he guilty or not? Now, here's one of the things that people have pointed out over and over again. A jury can decide that a person has broken the law and still not find them guilty. This is sometimes referred to as jury nullification, which is that, yes, by letter of the law, this person committed the crime that you're saying he committed, and he checks the boxes for having committed the crime. However, it's not taking in the totality of the facts, and so therefore we are going to find the defendant not guilty. That is often called an acquittal, or in some cases a jury nullification, where they say, yeah, he's guilty, but we're not going to find him guilty. We're going to say he's not guilty. Now, so that's phase one, is the guilty phase. If the jury in New York decides in the federal case that Luigi Mangione is guilty of murder in the first degree and all the things that they claim that he is, then they will render a verdict, and then there will be a pause. And then the jury will be reconvened. It'll be the same exact jury that's going to be reconvened. That jury will be reconvened and asked for the penalty phase. What do you believe the penalty should be for the crime committed? That question is going to be asked the death penalty. Is it your decision? And all 100%, all 12 jurors must agree that executing Luigi Mangione is the only just cause in this situation. So not only do you have to convince a jury of 12 that he's guilty of doing what they claim that he did, and that he may be guilty, but they're just not gonna hold him accountable, but they also have to agree, all 12 of them, that killing him and putting him to death is the only way that you can get justice in this situation. I don't see how in a state of New York, who has abolished the death penalty, I believe in 2004, is going to agree that the death sentence is the only just thing for Luigi Mangione. And let me clarify this: a judge must accept the penalty phase of the jury. So if even one juror is refusing to say that Luigi Mangione should be put to death, then the default that the judge he or she has no choice, must give Luigi Mangione life in prison without the possibility of parole. There cannot be the death penalty without all 12 saying he's guilty, and then again all 12 saying that death is the only justifiable penalty for what he did. That is extremely, extremely unlikely. So what is likely? It is likely Luigi Mangione is going to be tried and may be convicted of the crimes in which he's accused, or a lesser degree. I would say likely he's going to be proven guilty of a lesser crime, that there'll be a plea deal at some point. That's my guess. If I were to guess how this is going to play out, there's going to be a plea deal. Why a plea deal? Because the federal government and all entities at this point are 100% vested in winning this case. They can't take a loss, and they certainly can't take a loss that is a landmark case. What do I mean by a landmark case? This case could change history in the United States, because if the defense claims that Luigi Mangione did the things that they claim that he did, but that it was an act of self-defense because he was trying to save other people's lives, as depicted in the Law and Order episode doing a fictional Luigi Mangione. If they take that tactic, and if the jury agrees that the actions of Luigi Mangione, if he did the things that they say he did, was an act of self-defense to protect other human lives, it'll be a landmark case in this country. It'll establish the idea that a person's life that you are defending doesn't have to be standing right in front of you. This is one of the wordings on the Law and Order special, because it is true in I think most states, I believe, if you see somebody killing somebody else, beating somebody, for example, with a baseball bat, or raping somebody and stabbing them, or whatever the case may be, and you have the ability to stop them, you are permitted to stop them even to the point of death if you have to, and that is still considered self-defense. You're allowed to defend yourself and other persons in your presence. What hasn't been established clearly in a court system that I know of is that you can defend other people who are not standing directly in your presence. The law generally states that it has to be something about imminent, that somebody has to be in imminent danger, and that you try to stop somebody from hurting somebody in imminent danger. So I would say that if this is going to be battled out, if this landmark case, if it is going to become a landmark case, and if it's going to be battled out, the argument's going to be on the prosecution that this was not imminent, that no one was going to die right now, die tomorrow, die this moment if Luigi Mangione didn't shoot the healthcare CEO of Brian Thompson. That you can't prove that. That's ridiculous, and therefore it is not. No one's life was in imminent danger. The defense is going to argue that every second that goes by, X number of lives are being lost through denials of claim, and so every second people are in imminent danger. Every second that the policy allows to go out there to deny claims and let people die while they're waiting and fighting the legal system and the health insurance system, people are dying second by second, and so therefore it is imminent. This is going to be, I believe, the crux of what that argument is going to be if they go that route. And so it's going to come down to a jury to agree on whether or not someone's in imminent danger, because every second that these policies are going on, lives are being lost every second. So that's mostly my review of the fight between Pam Bondi and Karen Agnifilo, with the nuances of what I think is going on. I'll summarize that just a hair, and then I want to get into two more things before we end, which is called what I call the Mangione effect on healthcare. And it basically is looking at, has anything changed in American healthcare system since this happened? So, Blue Cross Blue Shield, as you are aware, had a policy that was publicly stated that they were going to limit the time an anesthesiologist is allowed to bill for their services and stop paying for it at a certain point, no matter what. It didn't matter if the surgery had complications or not. They were going to stop paying for the anesthesiologist time at a certain time limit. Immediately after the shooting of Brian Thompson, they changed their opinion and said, we've decided to change our policy. We think that that's a really bad idea. It has nothing to do with Brian Thompson, by the way, but in light of everything, we figured this is really bad policy. And they changed that. I want to cover that a little bit, because I would argue that this is how American healthcare system is already changing because of the alleged shooting of Brian Thompson by Luigi Mangione. Now, it's not alleged that Brian Thompson was shot. We know he was shot, but we don't know why. We believe it's because of the healthcare denials of claim, which United Healthcare was leading. So let's look at an article here, originally published December 5th, 2024. Anthem reverses their plans to put time limits on anesthesiologist coverage. I want to cover this and the new Mangione healthcare bill in California. You may have heard about that, and it's ridiculous. Someone literally is trying to pass a law in California called the Luigi Mangione healthcare denial plan, basically helping give people rights under Luigi Mangione's name. And you've got to see this to believe it, but and if you haven't, and we're going to cover what it really means. How is the conversation in America changing because of what happened in this case? This is going to be a landmark case, I guarantee you. This is going to change American politics for a long, long time. Well, I don't guarantee you, but that's my prediction. Okay. So one of the country's largest health insurers has reversed its decision to no longer pay for anesthesia care in certain states if surgery or procedures go beyond the particular time limit. There's been a significant widespread information about an update to our anesthesia policy. As a result, we have decided not to proceed with this policy change. That was their official backpedaling. They're like, hey, you guys are misunderstanding what we were trying to do, but we're out. This happened immediately. This is December 5th. Brian Thompson shot December 4th. As soon as the backlash hit in the American public news that a CEO was killed of a healthcare company because of denials of claim, and all that stuff was getting out there about the deny, defend, depose, the whole bullet casings, it started to bring a national discussion immediately. Within 24 hours, Anthem Blue Cross is saying, we're changing our policy. We're not going to do this whole anesthesiology thing. I think you guys are misunderstanding the purpose, but in light of everything, it seems like a really bad time to do that. Anthem had said that starting in February, it would use metrics known as the physician work time values from the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services to target the number of minutes reported by anesthesiologist services. Claims submitted with reported times above the established number of minutes will only pay up to the CMS established amount, it said in a note. What does that mean? Let's run that through the Universal Translator. we're only going to pay you X number of minutes for a heart surgery. And if there's complications in that heart surgery and that heart surgery goes 5 more hours long, we, the insurance company, aren't paying for the extra 5 hours for that surgery. And then what will happen is the patient who is on the operating table unconscious and unable to make a decision on whether they can afford 5 more hours of an anesthesiologist of time will just get an enormous bill that will cripple them and put them in bankruptcy. I believe that we said in an earlier state that 2/3 of the bankruptcies in the United States are because of healthcare reasons. People can't afford to pay their medical bills. And so in this scenario, the health insurance company was going to just stop paying your bill if your surgery got complicated and took too long, and therefore was going to pin the customer who's unconscious and can't make a decision with an enormous bill from the anesthesiologist. The only other option is for the doctor to stop the surgery and say, well, we're not getting paid for this because the client's not going to be able to pay it. No one's going to be able to afford that without insurance. And I'm not doing this for free. So time of death is 5:22 a.m. because they're just going to write it off and say, your time ran out. And if you don't think that can happen, you haven't been paying attention to American politics and American healthcare system. This is how bad it's gotten in America. So we have some quotes from the American Society of Anesthesiologists about this. The backlash to the announcement was swift and mounted this week, especially after the fatal shooting of the CEO of another health insurance company captivated social media and further cast a spotlight in the industry. So this article is saying, because of the shooting of Brian Thompson, Blue Cross changed their policy. So, going back to the argument, if the defense is going to try to say that Luigi Mangione is saving lives or trying to save lives, could you not argue that happened in this kind of scenario? Blue Cross was literally going to publish a new policy that stated, if your surgery gets complicated, we're going to stop paying the bill and you're just going to get foot with the bill. How many doctors would have stopped the surgery and said, well, I'm not doing this for free? So in essence, Blue Cross changing their policy could have saved lives. The ASA said that by arbitrarily determining the time allotted for anesthesia care during a procedure, Anthem will not pay an anesthesiologist for delivering safe and effective care to patients who may need extra attention because their surgery was difficult, unusual, or because of a complication arises. This is just the latest in a long line of appalling behavior by the commercial health insurers looking to drive up their profits at the expense of patients and physicians providing essential care. This is exactly what was portrayed in the Law and Order special. What got me kicked off of TikTok for talking about was that the Law and Order special was saying, and I'm really washed out on this camera on YouTube, wow. When I do this, I'm all right. Anyways, was people over profits. That was the message of the shooter in the fictional account. Put people over profits, but instead the industry is putting profits over people. The ASA also noted that Anthem, which rebranded to Elevance Health in recent years, reported a 24.12% increase in its year-over-year net income to $2.3 billion in June. In other words, they are making more and more profit. They are finding ways to become more and more profitable, which comes at the expense of giving us less and less care and taking away our rights and making us pay for more and more out of pocket so that they have to pay less. And they're making more and more record profits every single year as they deny more claims for us and keep pocketing more of the money for themselves. So earlier this week, Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut publicly urged Anthem to reverse course immediately. This is appalling, saddling patients with thousands of dollars in surprise additional medical debt, Murphy tweeted. And for what? To boost corporate profits. Even Congress knows the healthcare system is broken and out of control. The Republican, and I pointed out, I've been doing a book review series on YouTube called Luigi's Bookshelf, in which we're reviewing a book called An American Sickness by Elizabeth Rosenthal. And the whole book is talking about how the American healthcare system is putting profits over people and is killing people. So this is what we're facing in this country. And again, it saddens me it really saddens me. I'm having a hard time getting back in my own head that I've been kicked off of TikTok for mentioning what Congress has mentioned, what Law and Order's show is trying to get to the public, that the healthcare system is killing people. And to say that you are getting labeled as some kind of horrible person who needs to shut the hell up and have your voice taken away. Who's going to stand up for the little people? Anyways. As an example, if a woman is to undergo a hysterectomy for fibroid bleeding and the surgeon decides to extend the surgery time to control the bleeding, the surgeon and the anesthesiologist would have to decide whether to stop because of Anthem's policy or continue, knowing that the patient is going to have to cover the additional cost, possibly leading to crippling medical debt. So, that's what they're saying. The doctors are going to have to decide whether to stop the surgery because they know that the patient's not going to be able to afford it, or just eat it. And then we're going to look at this last case I wanted to point out, which is the Luigi Mangione inspired ballot initiative that targets health insurance denials. Kathy, I say murder and shooting and all those words. I've been saying it for months and never got so much as a strike on my account. I had one strike that came up and it wasn't for that. And I got that strike appealed and removed. So people tell me all the time why I get banned, and so I'm not mad at you, but people tell me all the time I get banned for saying Luigi's name. They say that I get banned for talking about murder, for shooting. Those things actually have never gotten me in trouble with TikTok. Today, somebody may have. We'll see. But I've been doing this for months. I say it over and over and over again, and people always say, "How come you can get away with this?" I'm like, because that's not the problem. It's something else that's the problem. And so maybe I'll find out what the problem is, but it's not for saying that. For God's sake, do you think saying, and this is again not at you, this is rhetorical, do you think saying unaliving someone is obfuscating what you're talking about? You're still talking about murder, right? So you're not fooling anyone, and you're not fooling an algorithm, because they can just put in unalive as a word that it looks for. So if they have a problem talking about unaliving someone, which is asinine, it's a word that doesn't mean anything. It's made up for social media because people have become to believe that unaliving someone is okay, but murdering somebody is not. It's asinine.
You're on a rant, honey.
I'm on a rant. Sorry. I'm on a rant. Let's just continue. So we're talking about the Mangione Act. Many Americans have expressed frustration in the healthcare system. In the aftermath of Thompson's killing, the health insurance industry has been under intense scrutiny. So since Brian Thompson's murder, the healthcare system has been under intense scrutiny, with many calling for reforms to the system. So again, if Luigi Mangione did the things that they accuse him of, has it made a difference in our country? We're having an intense scrutiny of our healthcare system now for the first time in a long, long time. So things have changed because of this. And so it continues on here that Eisner, a retired attorney with an active legal license, filed a ballot initiative with California Attorney General's office that states, no insurer may delay, deny, or modify any medical procedure or medication recommended by or treating or attending physician where the delay, denial, or modification could result in disability, death, amputation, permanent disfigurement, loss, or reduction of any bodily function. What does that mean, running it through the universal translator? They want to pass a law that says if your doctor says you need this and it could possibly kill you if you don't, that the insurance company can't deny that. It seems common sense, but literally you have to have a law stating that if your doctor says you need this and it's life-threatening for you to not do it, then the insurance companies cannot deny it without a peer review of another doctor saying, yeah, you don't really need that. Right now, the insurance companies in a lot of cases are making this decision, not another doctor. So they're trying to pass a law that says if a doctor has said it's medically necessary for life, then you can't deny it and make them fight it out while their life is threatened. The proposal, which he requested be named, so Eisner requested that the proposal be named. I laugh when I read it. It's so over the top. The Luigi Mangione Access to Healthcare Act. There's no way in hell that title's sticking if the law gets approved. But that's the informal title as it's going through the review process. It's called the Luigi Mangione Access to Healthcare Act. What it's stating is that we believe that people should have the right to have their care and not have it denied by insurance companies because they're trying to put profits over people. And it continues on. The Attorney General's office determines the official title, and Eisner told Newsweek that he expects Mangione's name will be dropped, and I don't have a problem with that. So again, it's more just kind of like a sensational thing. I'm going to put Luigi's name on it. I know you're going to remove Luigi's name, but I want everybody to know, at least during this process, that this is being done because of what's going on in the Luigi Mangione case. The proposal also requires any decision to deny what a physician recommends has to be made by a physician. So in other words, another physician has to agree that to deny it. No, you can't just have an insurance company deny it. Eisner said, noting that a lot of times in cases are either handled internally by insurance people and not by physicians. This proposal makes it a felony to employ someone who is not a physician to review a decision made by a physician. It seems common sense, but that's how we get in America. We get to the point where common sense things have to be argued, and you have to ask for people to make common sense decisions. It should have already been common sense that somebody who has a profit motive of denying your claims doesn't get to be the one who decides whether or not you get your claim accepted or not. It should be a doctor. It should be somebody who understands that, not just a money person going, nah, that's too much money. No. So he said about Mangione, I don't support his method. The point he is making is correct. But this is not how you do it. You do it through political or legal processes, he continued. He did not do it that way. You don't go out and conduct an assassination. Now, to be fair, what we talked about is the supposedly a comment that Luigi Mangione said in writings about the book from Ted Kaczynski, is that protests don't work. Legislation doesn't work. The only thing the system seems to have ever acknowledged, ever in our country, is violence. So again, I'm not advocating violence. What I'm saying is that's something that Luigi Mangione seemed to be saying, is that cowards are the ones who say violence never solves anything. Because our nation is full of violence, and policies change because of violence. And it's the cowards who say, well, let's just vote on it. Let's just get somebody new in office. That's the argument that is made. I'm gonna wrap up pretty soon. I'm losing steam. I'm losing energy because of the depressing thing that happened on TikTok, and so I need to kind of regroup. So deny, delay, depose, written on the bullet casings found at Thompson's murder scene. The words are believed to be related to the inspired by the book Delay, Deny, Defend, why insurance companies don't pay claims and what you can do about it. The summary of this whole argument, which I won't finish reading, as you can see, I got several other paragraphs, and long enough that you could pause the video if you want to read it. You can also look at the link and go find the article for yourself. Was basically that things are changing in this country because of what happened. If this case becomes a case over self-defense, over saving others' lives by changing the policy in America, it's going to be a landmark case. And again, this entire show was not intending to condone violence or anything like that. But that's clearly how TikTok took it, is that I was condoning violence. I don't actually suspect that I'm going to win my appeal this time. I feel like the way that it was handed down, I'm not going to win my appeal. You didn't get to see the she-devil, unless she wants to come over and cuddle up and say hi. Yeah, I'll have my wife. Which way do I need to go? I don't know. Can you squeeze in? There we go. So you can come closer. Hey, this is my wife.
Hello.
Rhonda, she's the she-devil. I wanted to get her on the TikTok live, but obviously I've been spanked like a bad boy for who knows what. Some of you think it's because I said the word murder. Some people think it's because I said Pam Bondi. Could have been the troll. The troll could have reported me. I've had a person attacking me a lot lately, one particular person. So
no, it wasn't just a warning. It was a bye-bye.
Yep, I got no warning. It was just instant shut my live off, instantaneous. So there's the she-devil for you guys. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm super sorry that this has ended this way.
I'm just curious.
I lost a lot of energy after they shut me off on TikTok. I'm very depressed in a lot of ways. So because I was making some inroads there and I was doing well, and I just got notified that my account was getting noticed as being a good up and coming content provider, and now all of a sudden, poof. This was oof, but I got poof.
Yeah.
So
it's the same.
All right. So thanks for coming. I will try to get over this depressing moment and recoup and see what happens on Friday. I may not be allowed to talk about anything on Friday. My account may be done. And TikTok may be done in a couple days. We don't know, because on April 5th, the whole thing might be shut off. So
everybody, please subscribe. It helps us tremendously.
Yeah.
And it's nice to say hi in person.
Yeah, if you're not doing so already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Get the word out there if you can. If there's some of you here, by the way, who are on TikTok and you feel inclined, I don't want to get you in trouble, maybe spread the word that my live got shut off and that I may not be on TikTok anymore, and that if people want to hear me, they're going to have to come here. But only do so if you don't think your own account's going to get shut off, because I don't want you to do something that's going to get your account shut off. All right. Have a great night, everybody. All right. Thank you.
Good night.